A very good afternoon, dear listeners of class 10th English. Children, today we are going to do our third story of our English supplementary reader book. The title is The Midnight Visitor. The Midnight Visitor. So, children, the story has been written by Robert Arthur and that belongs to the thriller kind of fiction, right? So the story would have some thrilling incidents, so listen to it carefully. So children, before starting with the text, I would like to introduce you with the three major characters. So in total, the story has four characters, but three are major ones, and the fourth one is a minor character. So, see, children, there are three characters shown in this picture. Here, the shorter one is the hero of the story. His name is Ausable, Ausable. His name is Ausable, right? And the person standing right behind Ausable, his name is Fowler. So, children, Ausable is a spy. He is having the profession of a secret agent. The people who work for some organizations who do the work of collecting information and submitting it to various organizations. So those are spies. They follow other people, they do the assigned tasks and submit the reports to their organizations. So Audible is one of those secret agents. So as it is shown in height, he is very short in height, he is very fat, and from his outer appearance one can never predict that he would be a secret agent, and that too an intelligent one, right? So the story would be unfolding the events, that how smart he was and how he acted very appropriately in the demanding situation. So this one is Audible, the one who is short in height, and the person standing behind him is Fowler. So children, Fowler was a young and romantic writer. A young and romantic writer, right? So Fowler came to meet Audible. So how the story begins, we would read it in description, that Audible was an exemplary secret agent and Fowler came to meet Audible, right? So why Fowler came to meet Audible, we would read in the story. The third character shown in the picture, the one who is holding a gun, he is named Max, Max. So as you can see, he is holding a gun. So he may be pointing out at one of these people standing at one of them, either Audible or Fowler, right? So he is holding a gun. Probably he is threatening these people. So let's read the content of the story and know more about Max and Audible. So remember, Audible is a secret agent and Max is also a secret agent, but both of them belong to different organizations. Audible and Max, both are secret agents, I repeat, right? But both of them belong to different organizations. So read what is given there in the description, introductory description box. So Audible, a secret agent, is expecting to get a very important report. A very important report, right? So another secret agent, Max, threatens him with the pistol, demanding the report. Does Audible outwit him, and how he did that, right? So the question is raised in the description box itself. It says that, like, Audible, it reveals, as he is a secret agent and he was expecting to get some very important report. Audible was, of course, in his place, maybe in his room, and he is a secret agent by profession. Another secret agent named Max, he also wants that same report, but not by the fair means. He wants to snatch that report from Audible by threatening him, as it is clearly visible in the picture itself, right? So he demands the report from Audible by holding a gun at them. So how these two characters, Fowler and Audible, get into the same room and how they react to the situation, let's read in the storyline. So children, before starting with the text, read the questions. What is given here? How is Audible different from other secret agents? So we would get to know the answer of this question after reading the text, that how Audible was different from other secret agents. Next question is, who is Fowler, right? And what is his first authentic thrill of the day? As I told you briefly that Audible was a secret agent and Fowler was a romantic writer, right? So reading the text itself, Audible didn't fit any description of a secret agent Fowler had ever read, right? So Audible didn't fit. So Fowler, children, as I told you, Fowler was a writer. So the writers do not only write stories or like literary pieces of art, right? The writers first read those pieces. If a writer writes some story that is not actually the most original piece, how it all comes to the writer's mind? Writers or the people who write, they observe the lives of other people. They observe the life events of other people. They observe the happenings around them. And from there only they get an idea, they generate an idea in their mind, and out of that idea they jot down the points and make a literary piece ready for us, right? So here the writer is opening with an abrupt statement. So Robert Arthur here, the writer, he opens the lesson, he opens the story with an abrupt statement. His statement is that Audible did not fit the description of a secret agent Fowler had ever read. Fowler not only wrote stories, he used to read stories as well. He used to read the stories written by other writers. So Fowler had read many stories related to secret agents, that secret agents are very fit, they are tall in height, they maintain a good health, they have a good physical strength, right? So they are mentally fit, they are very aggressive. So things like this. But as I showed you in the picture, the one, a renowned, you may say a renowned secret agent Audible, he is so short in height and he is so fat, right? So the first line is highly justified, said by Robert Arthur. Line is that Audible did not fit any description of a secret agent Fowler had ever read. It means Audible, whatever Fowler had imagined of Audible before meeting him, it could not meet. It means Fowler had expected that Audible would be having a good body, Audible would be having a very fine appearance, right? A tall one, a thin one, physically strengthened. So when Fowler met Audible, he finds that like Audible doesn't look like a secret agent actually. He finds that Audible doesn't look like a secret agent. Why? Because of his outer appearance. The secret agents are expected to be thin, tall, physically strengthened, and Audible looked as if he was a common man, right? So, next line. Following him down the musty corridor of the gloomy French hotel where Audible had a room, Fowler felt let down. It was a small room on the 6th and top floor and scarcely a setting for a romantic adventure. I told you, Fowler was a person who was a young and romantic writer. He followed Audible. Why he was following Audible? Because he knew that Audible was a smart secret agent and he wanted to know more about Audible's intelligence by staying some time with him, right? So, by spending some of his time with Audible, Fowler wanted to know more about him. Reading somebody's life story or listening to somebody doesn't mean doesn't prove that much fruitful as spending time with that person actually. So Fowler decided to write a piece of art. Fowler wanted to write a romantic and thriller story. So that's why what he did, he wanted to physically live with that secret agent Ozable so that he can study like how he exercises his mind, so that he can see how intelligently Ozable acts in particular situations. So he followed him in the musty corridor of the gloomy French hotel. Like Ozable was staying in a French hotel that seemed very serious place, right? So Ozable had a room in that hotel, right? He had rented a room in that hotel, and Fowler felt let down. Fowler, like, he was very excited to meet Ozable. Fowler was very excited, very happy to meet such a person, but when he saw him and when he saw his place of living, he feels that like that was such a mess, that was a gloomy place, that was a serious place, and it was a small room in which Ozable was staying, and that room was also on the top floor of the hotel. Top floor was the sixth floor, and Ozable had rented a room on the sixth floor, right? And scarcely means hardly, scarcely a setting for a romantic adventure. It means Fowler feels that no romantic adventure can be thought of implementing at such a place, means that place was not suitable for romantic adventures according to Fowler. So I hope that's clear till now. Next paragraph, it is Ozable was, for one thing, fat, very fat. As it's shown in the picture itself, he was very fat. And then there was his accent. It means then there was something odd about his way of speaking. There was something different in his speech accent. Though he spoke French and German passably. Passably means when somebody is able to speak or do something in a very good manner, quite well manner, right? So the writer says that although like Ozable spoke French and German very well, so he had never altogether lost the American accent he had brought to Paris from Boston 20 years ago. It means 20 years ago, where Ozable was, it means he had shifted his place, right? He was from Boston and now he had been to Paris. So the accent or the way of speaking which a person adopts in the initial years of his or her life, that are carried throughout. So that's why Fowler thinks that Ozable's accent is not much proper. It's not much refined. His language is not very good to hear. His speech is not very good to hear. Right? Third paragraph he says, "You are disappointed?" Ozable said wheezily over his shoulders. Right? Ozable patting patting over the shoulder of Fowler, asked him that is he disappointed? So what's the answer say? You were told that I was a secret agent, a spy dealing in espionage and danger. Right? Espionage means spying. spying. The acts of spying, the acts of secretly approaching other people. Right? You wish to meet me because you are a writer, young and romantic. You envisioned mysterious figures in the night, the crack of pistols, drugs in the wine, etc. So, Ozable, in a very tricky manner, Ozable asked Fowler that I feel that he is disappointed on meeting Ozable, right? So that was exactly true. Then what Ozable says that like somebody must have told you that I am a secret agent, I deals in the works of spying and danger, right? And that's why you wanted to meet me, because you wanted to write something on my life, you wanted to write something about my adventures, right? So you envisioned mysterious figures in the night. So all these things Ozable was speaking in a very tricky manner. So see what happens next. Instead, you have spent a dull evening in a French music hall with a sloppy fat man. With a sloppy, sloppy, here the meaning of sloppy means the one who is not dressed properly, the one who is casually dressed. Right? So instead he says that you have to spend your time with such a sloppy fat man. It means Ozable is addressing himself as sloppy and fat. It means he calls himself a fat man, and he admits that his dressing sense is not good, right? So he says, instead of having messages slipped into his hand by dark-eyed beauties, gets only a prosaic telephone call. Prosaic is actually, here it is used as an ordinary, right? A common. So he says only a prosaic telephone call, making an appointment in his room. So you have been bored. Ozable is asking Fowler that you have got bored, I know, right? The fat man chuckled to himself as he unlocked the door of his room and stood aside to let his frustrated guest enter. Guest is Fowler. As I told you in the beginning, Ozable, a secret agent, was living on the 6th floor of a French hotel room, and the next character, Fowler, a writer, has come to meet Ozable in his room in order to know more about his adventures, right? So now Ozable says all this to Fowler. He says that Fowler's expectations of Ozable have been very, very high, but on seeing Ozable, Fowler finds that he was a fat man having short height and nothing to be thrilling about him, right? So here he is joking. See, you are disillusioned, Ozable told him. But take cheer, my young friend. Presently you will see a paper, a quite important paper, which several men and women have risked their lives. Come to me. Someday, soon, that paper may well affect the course of history. In that thought is drama, is there not? As he spoke, Ozable closed the door behind him. Right? Then he switched on the light. So see his activities. He is asking you. I feel that you are quite disillusioned. Again, that you are quite unhappy. You are quite lost. Right? But he says that take cheer, my young friend. He asked him to cheer up. He asked him to become happy. And here Ozable told Fowler that you will soon see a paper. Paper refers to that very important report which is wanted by many people, right? So that was very risky to collect, and Ozable here tells Fowler that he will soon get that report. Next is, and as the light came on, Fowler had his first authentic thrill of the day. So what was the thrill? As it was the question also, what was the first authentic thrill of the day? For halfway across the room, a small automatic pistol in his hand stood a man. Ozable blinked a few times. Max, he wheezed. You gave me quite a start. Right? Wheezed means to speak breathing noisily and heavily in a heavy tone. Right? Wheezing. So, I thought you were in Berlin. What are you doing here in my room? Right? So, Max was a very thin, a tall, a good looking fellow. So, as that person, Fowler, reached the room of Ozable, he sees that, like, as both of them enter the room, and as you can see, Ozable is switching on the light. As soon as Ozable that switched on that light button, right? So what Ozable and Fowler see, that a person is already present in the room. See, there is a window behind that. There is a window behind that, right? So that's just a hint. This person is Max, the one holding pistol in his hand. So here Ozable asks him that, Max, that you have given quite a start to me. I thought you were in Berlin. He asked Max that he was thinking that Max was in Berlin, means that place only, right? So when did he come back from there? He switched on the light, like seeing all that drama. So Fowler was, thinking that really some thrilling incident may have started. He notices that how can a man enter a hotel room, so much security is there, guards are there, CCTVs are there. So how this person named Max has entered this room, and he was holding a small automatic pistol in his hand, right? Ozable blinked his eyes a few times and asked him that when did he came back from Berlin and all. So Next, see, first read the questions before that. He says, how has Max gotten? How does Ozable say he gotten? Right? So, two questions are there as I just hinted, right? So the question is, how Max entered the room of Ozable when it was locked from outside, because Ozable only opened the door with his keys when they enter, when both Ozable and Fowler entered the room. So here he is amazed, he is surprised that how Max is holding a pistol and how he has entered the room. And how does Ozable say he got in? Ozable would answer us how Max entered that room particularly, right? So read about Max in the next line. Max was a slender, it means thin, a little less than tall, with features that suggested slightly the crafty, pointed countenance of a fox. A phrase beautifully used that suggested slightly the crafty. The crafty means, the one who is cleverly made. Pointed countenance of a fox. Appearance with that of a fox means so much focused eyes, so shrewd, so clever. Right? That was all about him. Aside from the gun, nothing especially menacing. It means not he didn't seem menacing, he didn't seem that such a kind of creature from whom we should get afraid, especially the gun which he was holding in his hand. It means Fowler says that he got afraid when he sees a gun in the hands of Max, right? So next line is, the report he murmured. He murmured means, see, the report that is being brought to you tonight concerning some new missiles, I thought I would take it from you. It will be safer in my hands than in yours. Max here is threatening. Max is using threatening language for Ozable and he asks him to submit that report. The report which Ozable had obtained with great difficulty. So that report is also wanted by Max, and Max, holding a pistol towards Ozable, asks him to hurriedly submit the report to Max, right? He is demanding that report. So see, the report which was obtained by Ozable with a great difficulty, how should he give him and why should he give that report to Max? There was no logic of that. So let's read further that how he tackles this situation. Ozable moved to an armchair and sat down heavily. I'm going to raise the devil with the management this time, and you can bet on it, he said grimly. Grimly means seriously. Ozable sat on his chair. So, children, that is shown in this picture. Ozable is sitting on his chair, and what he says that I would fight with that management. I would start a fight with this management that is very poor, the management of this hotel, right? The manager of this hotel. So their management is very poor and I am going to fight with these people. This he says while sitting in his chair. So what next? This is the second time in a month that somebody has got into my room through that nuisance of a balcony. Fowler's eyes went to the single window of the room. It was an ordinary window which I showed you as well. So Fowler's eyes went to the single window of the room. It was an ordinary window against which now the night was pressing blackly. The night was quite visible. This was the only window that was there in the room. So Fowler noticed that window. Here Ozable is expressing his anger. Ozable is expressing his disappointment towards the management of the hotel, since Ozable says that this is the second time that somebody has entered his room, and that too because of that balcony. Right? So the balcony can be only there where there is some window, because if some balcony is there outside, only then some stranger or some thief can enter that room through the way of that window. So Ozable is expressing his anger. See what happens next. Balcony? Max said with a rising inflection. No, a passkey. I did not know about the balcony. It might have saved me some trouble had I known. Here Max was surprised. His eyebrows were raised. His voice was raised a little bit with surprise that is there some balcony outside? So he says, no, a pass key. Max, the one holding gun in his hand, explains to Ozable and Fowler that I got a pass key with great difficulty. It means I got a key to unlock your room and enter it, right? So if the knowledge of balcony would have been there with me, so I should never have taken the risk of getting that duplicate key to unlock your room, right? So here Max gets surprised on the knowledge that there is a balcony. So, what Ozable says next, it's not my balcony. Ozable said with extreme irritation. He said, that is not mine. So, it belongs to the next apartment. He glanced explanatorily at Fowler. You see, he said, this room used to be a part of a large unit, and the next room through that door there used to be the living room. So it had the balcony which extends under my window now. You can get onto it from the empty room 2 doors down, and somebody did last month. The management promised to block it off, but they haven't done it yet. So Max was quite surprised on knowing the presence of a balcony, and further Ozable feeling irritated, and he explains to Fowler that I have reported it several times to the management of this hotel that to de-link that balcony with my room, that last month also a thief or a stranger had entered my room from that window, because that window is linked to that balcony, and that balcony is linked to the next apartment. So that's why his room is not at all safe. So Ozable is expressing his anger. Now Fowler and Max both are surprised that if balcony is there, it's very easier to enter Ozable's room, right? Next paragraph. Max glanced at Fowler. Max, the person holding a gun in his hand, you may say him antagonist of the story, villain of the story. Max looked at Fowler, who was standing stiffly not far from Ozable. It means Max looked at Fowler, and Fowler was standing straight near to Ozable, not far from Ozable, near to Ozable, and waved the gun with a commanding gesture. Please sit down, he said. We have a wait of half an hour, I think. Right? So he said that we already have wait for half an hour, and he asked him to sit down on that place. 31 minutes, Ozable said moodily. It means in a quite tricky manner again. He said not half an hour, 31 minutes. The appointment was for 12:30. I wish I knew how you learned about the report. Max, the little spy, smiled evilly in a bad manner, right? And we wish we knew your people got the report. But no harm has been done. I will get it back tonight. What is that? Who is at the door, right? Ozable here hints that it's not 30, it's 31 minutes. So he says that the appointment was for 12:30, and he wished that he could knew that how you had learned about the report, and Max had got that report. He wanted to get that report, and he said that I would not harm you in any instance, like I would not be giving you any harm. So he just wanted that report. Max said that he just wanted that report, right? So see what Ozable continues that I'll get it back tonight. What's that? Who is at the door? Ozable hinted that he had a meeting with someone. He had an appointment with someone, and he suddenly asks a question because there was a knock at the door. Now the fourth character would be introduced. As I told you, there are 4 total characters in the story. Ozable says, what is that? Who is at the door? It means someone has knocked the door. Next paragraph. Fowler jumped at the sudden knocking of the door. So Ozable just smiled. That would be police, he said. I thought that such an important paper as the one we are waiting for should have a little extra protection. I told them to check on me to make sure everything was all right. Fowler jumped at the sudden knocking of the door. It means Fowler, the writer, right? Fowler, the writer, he jumped means he all of a sudden became nervous, right? Jumped at the sudden, it means he jumped from his position, he stood up, and he when he heard that there is a knocking at the door, that some stranger has come. So Ozable smiled at that, and Ozable explained to Fowler that because he knew it in advance, he knew it prior, that the report, which is very important, to that it is very important that that report should reach in the right hands. So that's why he has called for police protection. So he says that he has asked a policeman to come for the sake of protection of that report. So policeman would be at the door. He asked Fowler not to worry. He said, don't worry, Fowler, right? Policeman will be there at the door in order to secure this report. So see, next paragraph. Max bit his lip nervously. The knocking was repeated. It means, as Ozable said, that police is at the door and they are knocking repeatedly because nobody had opened the door. Max bit his lips nervously. It means Max began to think of something very shrewd, but he got nervous. He got afraid at that time. See what happens next. What will you do now, Max? Ozable asked. Ozable asked Max that I have called police. What will you do now? So if I do not answer the door, they will enter anyway. The door is unlocked and they will not hesitate to shoot. So Ozable here threatens Max. Ozable, who was sitting on the chair, he threatens Max that if I do not open the door, because the door is already unlocked, the policeman will easily come in and they will not hesitate to shoot you. Right? The policeman will not hesitate to shoot Max because Max is a suspect in this case. So next paragraph he says, Max's face was black with anger as he backed swiftly. Swiftly means with speed. Right? Max's face become black with anger. He got very angry and as he backed swiftly towards the window. It means, I don't know, probably from where he had come, he straight away says that he has got a pass key to enter Ozable's room. So Max here, as you can see, that he is about to go out from that room through the window where a balcony is there supposedly, means where there is a balcony according to Ozable, right? So what happens next? See, he says swiftly towards that window. He swung a leg over the sill. It means that window boundary. He took his leg over that. Send them away, he warned. Max warned Ozable and Fowler that send the police away. I will wait on the balcony. Send them away or I'll shoot and take my chances. Max again threatens Fowler and Ozable. Max threatens, right? He threatens them and angrily asks them that send away the policeman or else I will shoot both of you. Right? So that's why he angrily asked them and said that I will wait for you in the balcony. Submit me that report as soon as possible or else I would shoot both of you. Right? So the knocking at the door became louder and a voice was heard. Mr. Ozable, it means the person who was knocking at the door. He got his, knocking louder and asked for Ozable that if he is present in the room. So what happened next? See, keeping his body twisted so that his gun still covered the fat man and his guests, the man at the window grasped the frame. The man at the window means Max, right? The man at the window, Max, grasped the frame. Grasp means to hold something tightly. He held the frame of that window tightly with his free hand to support himself because he wanted to point out gun at both these persons and he wanted to go out also because he was afraid of police. So then he swung his other leg up and over the windowsill. So you can see in the picture, Max one leg is already out of that window and in a hurry in order to escape from the police that the door was about to be opened. So he took his second leg also and like jumped out of that window. The doorknob turned. Swiftly, Max pushed with his left hand to free himself from the sill, from the window pane. Like he was holding the window pane, as I told you, he was holding the sill with his hand, right? So, he swiftly Max pushed with his left hand to free himself from the sill and dropped to the balcony. He wanted to go to the balcony and wait there for Ozible. And then he dropped. He screamed once shrilly. Shrilly means loudly, at a high pitch, right? So as soon as Max was obviously Max believed Ozible that there is a balcony outside the window, and as he went outside the window, so what happens at that time? He screamed loudly. He shouted very loudly. Why? See, the door opened and a waiter stood there with a tray, a bottle, and two glasses. Here's a drink for you ordered. Here's a drink you ordered for when you returned, he said, and set the tray on the table, deftly uncorked the bottle, and left the room. It means there was no police at the door. Ozible just cooked up that story. Ozible told a lie. Right? I hope you are getting it. It means the door opened and a waiter stood there with a tray. Ozible had ordered when Ozible had rented a room on the 6th floor. But as soon as when he entered the reception area, he ordered wine for himself, right? Wine for himself as well as for his guest Fowler. So as he had ordered wine, there was no policeman at the door like the one who was knocking repeatedly. In fact, the waiter was there. He had come to serve wine to both these persons, right? And then what happened? He left the room after serving bottle, right? So white-faced Fowler stared after him, but he stammered means he spoke by muttering. He spoke by means like not in a clear manner, right? He stammered. The police means Fowler asked Ozible that where is the police you had called for the protection of that report. Ozible sighed, means said in a low voice. Ozible said there was no police. Only Henry, whom I was expecting. Henry is the name of that waiter, right? He said that I was waiting for Henry and not police. But won't that man out on the balcony? Fowler began. Fowler said that then if police protection is not there, then that gun holding man means Max would come again out of that balcony who is waiting there, right? No, said Ozible, he won't return. You see, my young friend, there is no balcony. A hilarious ending, a wonderful ending by the writer Robert Arthur. He says that there is no balcony outside. It means he said Max will never return. Why? Because he befooled. He told a lie, right? Because Max had come from the reception area itself. So Ozible told two lies to Max. First, he told a lie that there is a balcony so that Max may jump out of that. Because there was no balcony, Max fell down from the 6th floor of the hotel and died on the spot. And of course, the fear of police pushed Max. As you can see in the picture very clearly, Max didn't look even. Max was pointing a gun at Ozible and Fowler. He just wanted to save his life. In fact, he didn't look out of the window, or else he had noticed that there was no balcony, and he directly jumped out of that window and fell from the 6th floor of that hotel. Right? So see children, this was all about the story, a very interesting one, and you can easily feel that although a man may appear fat, short, or not having a good accent in language, so he or she may have a very sharp mind. Both the stories, the two fake stories, were cooked up by Ozible, right? Ozible didn't have any revolver, any gun, any other tool to attack Max. He just had one tool. Can you guess what? His own mind, his presence of mind. Robert Arthur has written the story on this theme that even if a person doesn't have any kind of helping material, only presence of mind is needed in order to act in a particular situation, right? So the story is based upon a short episode of how an intruder means the one who interferes, intruder enters Ozibel's room, and how he is punished on the spot by Ozibel. The visitor in the title of the story, the midnight visitor, that refers to the intruder Max. Max is that intruder, right? So be clear with the storyline. That's very simple, a surprise at the end, right? So the theme of the story is presence of mind. It mainly focuses Ozibel's tactics, Ozibel's ideas, his tricks in dealing with adverse circumstances, and like all thanks to his wonderful presence of mind at a time when he could be killed any moment. Max was holding a gun. He could have killed Ozibel and Fowler at any point of time, right? So an ordinary fellow, if Ozibel would not have been here at this place, an ordinary man would beg for his life if he sees someone pointing a gun towards him, right? So if we see that there are two people, or in the movies that one is helpless and one is having gun, the one who is without any helping material, so they may beg for their life if they don't have any presence of mind, right? They may beg for their life, but the hero of the story, Ozibel, didn't move, right? His sharp mind assessed the situation completely, and that too in a fraction of moment, that too in a very short span of time. He assessed how he can escape from that Max, and how he can get rid of Max, and how he can punish him. So he immediately cooked up that story of the existence of a balcony just below the window of his room, right? So there was no balcony. He just wanted to distract the attention of Max, and he wanted Max to go out of that window and die, right? So that's why further entry of that waiter Henry also added flavor to the story, right? Although the door was being knocked by Henry himself, the waiter himself, so Ozibel pretended that the knocking at the door is done by police, right? So thus the presence of mind not only saved the important report from being stolen by a corrupt secret agent, so it also saved Ozibel's life, Ozibel and Fowler's life, right? So without using any weapon at all, so Ozibel led Ozibel led Max to meet his end, right? So that was all about the story. I hope you have understood it, and you can leave your remarks in the comment section, and do try to answer these questions given at the back exercise. So if you have any queries, do leave it in the comment section. I'll be happy to take that. Have a nice day. Thank you.